They said it could make you fly. Not metaphorically, people claimed it gave them focus so sharp they forgot sleep, hunger, even pain. For a few hours the brain became a clean machine, the heart a metronome of purpose. And then sometimes the same heart simply stopped. Doctors started calling it the caffeine crash. But what they whispered privately was harsher. The next global addiction had arrived in a can. No one pictured how quietly it began. In 1976, Bangkok's nights smelled of diesel and exhaustion. The factories never closed, taxi drivers chewed coffee beans to stay awake, and chemicals were cheap. A pharmacist AS salesman named Chaleo Uvidya mixed caffeine with vitamins and sugar in a dusty warehouse and handed the bottles to long-haul truckers. The liquid was thick, gold, and bitter. He called it Krating Deng, Red Bull. Tea wasn't glamour, it was survival in liquid form, designed for men who would rather risk their hearts than lose their wages. 6 years later, an Austrian marketing executive named Dietrich Mateschitz stepped off a plane at Don Mueang Airport, 9 hours out of sync with his body clock. He found the little Thai drink at a corner shop, swallowed it, and within minutes forgot he hadn't slept. The idea hit him as fast as the caffeine. If exhaustion was universal, so was profit. He tracked down Chaleo, still measuring powders by hand above his pharmacy offices, and proposed an alliance, Thai chemistry with Western imagination. By 1987, Red Bull GmbH was registered in Austria, the mixture carbonated, sweetened, and polished into something the West could sip while pretending not to swallow danger. Energy had become an industry. The modern formula every brand now copies hides in plain sight. Caffeine between 80 and 300 milligrams per can, about the jolt of 5 espressos. Taurine, synthesized in factories not from animals, to steady the heart's electrical rhythm. B vitamins dosed so high, each label glows with percentages that no nutritionist would ever design. And enough sugar to set neurons dancing. These are legal ingredients, all recognized, all harmless, until they meet in the bloodstream of a teenager already overloaded with caffeine from coffee, soda, and exhaustion. The biochemical result is the closest daily life gets to controlled panic. Within 10 minutes of the first swallow, caffeine begins blocking adenosine, the molecule that signals the brain to slow down. The heart speeds up, pupils dilate, blood pressure climbs. 40 minutes later, dopamine and adrenaline flood through the system, sharpening reflexes meant for emergencies, not Zoom meetings. For the next 2 hours, the drinker feels limitless, their pulse a drumbeat of confidence. Then the sugar collapses, taking mood and concentration down with it. The brain, deprived of equilibrium, demands another can. Addiction through acceleration. Doctors noticed the pattern first among athletes. In 2001, Irish emergency rooms treated an 18-year-old runner who collapsed after 4 cans of Red Bull mixed with vodka. No alcohol poisoning, just an electrical storm in the heart. In Sweden, 3 young adults died the same year under nearly identical circumstances. Forensic reports ruled cardiac arrhythmia associated with caffeine toxicity. No trace of any illegal drug, just chemistry legal everywhere, lethal in excess. Between 2004 and 2012, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration logged dozens of deaths possibly tied to high caffeine energy drinks. Most were adolescents. All were preventable. The companies pointed to statistics. Billions of cans opened safely. Mathematically correct, morally hollow. Tobacco once had the same defense. Only a few people die, therefore it must be fine. Caffeine itself is older than civilization. Coffee leaves its fingerprint across 5,000 years of trade. What changed was concentration. The human body evolved to sip stimulation from a cup, not to shotgun it from an aluminum cylinder pressurized with marketing. The cardiovascular system can manage gradual caffeine, but the shock of a double or triple dose presses every adrenal button at once. The heart can become confused by overlapping signals. Accelerate, then slow, then accelerate again. On hospital monitors, the trace looks like Morse code for panic. Taurine, the second most advertised ingredient, is no villain by itself. It stabilizes electrical activity in muscle tissue and may protect neurons, but paired with high caffeine, its balancing effect often vanishes. A 2020 study by the Mayo Clinic found that a single 16-ounce energy drink raised systolic blood pressure by nearly 8 points in healthy volunteers within 90 minutes. For hypertensive patients, that margin can mean the difference between normality and a stroke. The next myth hides in the vitamin list. Niacin, B3, at 200% of daily value. Pyridoxine, B6, at 250%. Cobalamin, B12, near 150%. Those numbers look like life insurance but serve another purpose, marketing shorthand for medical. High-dose B-complex isn't dangerous by itself, yet in combination with frequent consumption, it triggers nerve tingling, nausea, sometimes insomnia. Consumers believe vitamins cancel toxins. In fact, they often arrive hand in hand. By 2008, emergency departments coined an unofficial term, energy drink syndrome. Symptoms: rapid heartbeat, chest pain, anxiety, sleeplessness lasting up to 30 hours. Most patients were under 25. A few required defibrillation. 5 didn't survive. When their autopsy results entered medical journals, journalists ignored the reports. No scandal sticks to something so ordinary as caffeine. What frightens regulators isn't the drama of one death, it's the monotony of a million small injuries. Across America, college students began stacking caffeine supplements on top of energy drinks, chasing mental clarity that never arrives. Some mix the beverages with alcohol, which masks fatigue even further, making intoxication harder to notice. Studies from 2016 onward show that mixing energy drinks with spirits triples the likelihood of binge drinking and doubles the chance of hospitalization for alcohol poisoning. The stimulant cloaks the sedative until the body gives out. Meanwhile, the branding machine evolved. Red Bull financed skydives from space. Monster Energy sponsored combat sports and video game marathons. Advertisements sold defiance of gravity itself. No one mentioned that the average 16-ounce can now carries more sugar than 3 glazed donuts and more caffeine than the body of a healthy teenager can clear in 12 hours. The one ingredient shared with embalming fluid was not formaldehyde, it was denial. Warnings exist, small and polite. The European Food Safety Authority recommends no more than 400 milligrams of caffeine per day for adults and no more than 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight for children. Energy drink cans sometimes exceed that in 2 servings. The fine print says, consume responsibly. But the marketing says, push harder. Responsibility never trends. In hospitals, toxicologists describe caffeine overdose in language that sounds almost gothic. The hands tremble as potassium levels drop. The blood turns slightly acidic. The heart beats so fast that its chambers cannot refill, starving the brain of oxygen though circulation seems frantic. The victim feels both drained and electrified, perfectly awake, perfectly trapped. There is no antidote except time. Metabolism must burn the chemical storm molecule by molecule. In extreme cases, doctors sedate the patient until it passes. Artificial calm to erase artificial energy. The irony is that none of this chemistry is secret. Every formula is printed on the can and approved by regulators. The danger hides not in obscurity but in familiarity. When a stimulant becomes part of breakfast, vigilance fades. The language of addiction adapts. 1 can becomes routine, 2 become normal, 3 become focus. The industry depends on that normalization. It doesn't have to lie, it only needs to repeat the word energy until it replaces the word rest. By 2022, global sales of energy drinks exceeded $57 billion. Surveys show that more than 70% of college students in the United States consume them at least monthly, and almost half mix them with alcohol. The demographic most vulnerable, the young, provides the majority of profits. Regulatory agencies publicly debate labeling laws, but behind closed doors even health officials admit another truth. Banning caffeine in extreme doses would criminalize half the workforce. The modern economy runs on overstimulation. We are all test subjects who volunteered by doing nothing. The story ends quietly, without cinematic tragedy. Chaleo Yuvidya died peacefully in 2012, aged 88, leaving behind a family fortune of $20 billion and an empire built on alertness. Dietrich Mateschitz died a decade later, worth even more. Between them, they rewrote global metabolism. Millions wake each morning too tired to function and reach instinctively for the remedy those 2 men bottled half a century ago. The formula hasn't changed much, nor has human biology. What changed is our tolerance for fatigue. We treat tiredness as a defect rather than a signal. We no longer rest, we refuel. Science can't turn that cultural addiction into a scandal because it works exactly as intended. The beverage gives energy, and energy sells dreams. The side effects are tolerable right up until they aren't. Fainting in the gym, trembling behind the wheel, lying in bed at 3 a.m. with the heart pounding louder than thought. Some call it lifestyle, others call it progress. Toxicologists just call it exposure. Somewhere tonight, under fluorescent lights, another student tears open another can because tomorrow's deadline feels more dangerous than heart palpitations. The hiss echoes like a fuse. The first swallow tastes like victory. The last feels like necessity. The world keeps buying seconds of wakefulness, paid for with hours of rest that will never return. The horror isn't buried in hidden ingredients or unsolved deaths. It's right there on the label, readable, legal, and addictive. The question isn't what these drinks contain. It's what they've replaced. Each can preserve one more sleepless day inside the body. A chemical promise that life can be lived without pauses. For a while it even feels true, until biology, patient as gravity, collects the debt that marketing forgot to mention. If this story unsettled you, good, use that discomfort. Share this video. Talk about it. Tell the people who drink these cans every day what they really trading for those borrowed hours. Because the victims of overstimulation want to recognize themselves until it is too late. The nurse whose heart want to slow down, the teenager collapsing mid-workout, the worker whose hands won't stop shaking. They can't yet see the pattern, but you can. Every share, every discussion, every person warned is a heartbeat protected, a tragedy postponed. In the end, the most horrifying thing about this addiction isn't that it happens. It is that we know exactly how to stop it and we still keep drinking.